for Outreach 30 and 30 with Beyond the Rings. 30 short stories from 30 over 30 days in the month of September from our time in Paris, sharing the gospel with people from all over the world using Olympic pen trading. My name's Jeff Wells. I'm the founder of Beyond the Rings and now an 11-time Olympian. I'm an 11-time Olympian,
I
guys.
wouldn't go that far, but
No?
no.
No?
You've been
Okay.
to 11 Olympics.
I've been to 11 Olympics. Okay,
That's
that's fair. That's fair.
You're an 11th.
I'm
spectator.
a spectator.
That's a
Yeah,
better one.
that's
But I think it is safe to say I'm a veteran Olympic evangelist.
yes.
Is that fair? Okay.
Yes.
All
And
right.
trader.
Yeah, and I'm here with my friends, acquaintances, fellow servants, Destiny Killian and Brandon Long, both from Missouri Baptist University.
Shine on.
There we go. Got to get the MBU plug in. And we're just sharing some stories and interacting with each other about some of our encounters while there. And this is, in all honesty, to whet your appetite. So you'll come out and join us for our celebration on the 29th of September at Concord Church. We'll talk more about that in our closing time. So, Destiny, take it away. What do you got for us today?
Okay. Story I'm going to tell today is one that happened on August 2nd. It was another day at the fan zone because we had learned also that I know I explained the fan zone previously, but another little fact is we learned that the fan zones were hopping on weekends or
Mm.
close to weekends. They weren't really hopping on any other days.
Right. Yeah, we discovered that early on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was helpful. So this day, it was the day we finally put our foot down and we're like, Jeff, we're not going to that park.
That you're obsessed with.
Yes.
My obsession was forced to conclusion.
And we're going to stay in one spot.
Yes.
But we did go back to that fan zone that I mentioned in early episode. And so this happened right before lunchtime. So the fan zone was a very hopping, we had conversation after conversation after conversation. Well, right before we left for lunch, just to regroup, also have lunch because we
It was,
didn't.
it was 2 o'clock. We didn't eat
Yeah.
lunch till like
Oh,
1 or
it
2
was-
o'clock.
Yes.
We were hungry.
Yeah.
And me and Brandon were up in this eating area, ready to go meet you and Tony. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw these bright red, sparkly cowgirl boots. Okay. And so I knew that was one of God's ways of attracting me to go to this person.
Shiny objects.
Yeah, shiny objects.
It may have been more the boots than the shine.
Okay.
There was a mix because from being an Ellsburyan, I am a country person.
What?
I mean, I am.
You did give us an entire lesson on the difference of cows.
Yes.
So,
Cattle.
It's
I'm sorry,
cattle.
cattle. I apologize. See, I was not paying attention now, was I?
Okay.
Uh,
And so that was fun encounter because Brandon was already
I was halfway down the stairs.
and I
Me,
go,
you.
Brandon, stop. Okay. I'm like, because I really wanted to talk to this person. I may have been a little too eager, but
Like, what do you want?
yeah.
She goes, I want to talk. I'm like, oh,
And so after I got his attention, so he didn't just leave. Luckily, if he did leave, I wouldn't have gotten lost because it's a big square. Um,
Yeah, he would have recognized you weren't there eventually.
yeah. I went up, and so I later on I found out her name was Jess. She was from Great Britain because she was also decked out in Great Britain. Um, I go, I love your boots, very enthusiastic because they're cowgirl boots and they're sparkly
And they're shiny.
and she's country.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that kind of opened up the conversation, and then she looked at my pins on my lanyard, and she's like, I love these pins. I want to get into pin trading. And so that I was like, okay, I'll give you your first one
Oh, yeah.
kind of way. Not to trade though, but here's your first one. And I was like, you have to tell me a story. She was very excited. She's like, okay, I'm listening. So I told her the conversation that went with the pen, and
Which is the gospel.
which is the gospel. It is. Sorry, it's not my
Okay.
story.
It's okay.
Um, And so, I just remember that after the conversation happened, she was, like, jumping for joy when she got this pin.
Hmm.
Like, she wanted to put it on right away, but she was from
She was a BBC reporter,
er
broadcast
so she
person.
was on air, like,
Yeah, she was about to go on.
soon after.
Right.
And so that was one of the encounters that I enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talked about this in another episode as well. Again, here was something that caught your attention,
Yeah.
something you had interest in.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't try the Jeff line about, let me guess, Great Britain.
No.
You didn't go that route. No.
No,
Sorry.
she didn't roll like that.
That
But side note on that story, while she was talking to Jess, her co-host walked up to me wondering what was going on. And
Hmm.
so I didn't have a good interaction with him. I didn't have the Jess interaction that she had.
He didn't have
But
red boots on either.
no, he didn't.
No.
But I give him a pin and a card, and so
Yeah.
he has our pin.
Now, let me ask you a question. So this was a great example of both examples. You were able to go through the entire gospel presentation with Jess.
Mhm.
But in this situation, you were only able to give him a card,
Mhm.
the pin with the gospel, because on the inside is the entire gospel presentation
Yeah.
with the QR code
Mhm.
to hear it again in a video presentation.
Yeah.
And to me, I guess just speak to those two versions because our desire is to have conversations with
Mhm.
people, but it's not always optimal for timing
Yeah.
or location, or just like in that situation, he was just like, why is my co-host over there when we're getting ready to go on the air?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
here's why. Check it out when you get a chance.
Yeah.
So speak just a moment to how you saw the pros of having both options
Mhm.
available to you when you were seeking to engage opportunity.
Ladies first.
the pros was the fact that, beyo well, English cards we had, you also had a friend translate it in French.
Mhm.
So this
Mhm.
was another side story about I think it was probably around the same day. Um, had a gospel conversation, French people who spoke French.
Was it the
And
people that put the hats on our head?
yes, it was.
Oh yeah, I
Because
remember
I was
seeing that from
fascinated about
across.
The chicken hat.
the
Yes,
chicken hat,
And
and the
then
lady was like, "Put it on," like, not really, like, in French. She was like,
right,
"Here, put it on."
right.
Mhm.
And then she was like, looked to her husband, I'm
Assuming it
assuming,
was a husband, it was a
and
friend or
she's like, "French, give him that hat," like, so
and
that
so yeah.
he gave Brandon the hat. It was totally in French, didn't understand,
Right.
but we still had the and then I could give her the card.
Yes.
They spoke enough English for us to be like, "Hey, this is in French for you."
Right.
And it explains what we're doing here.
So
And
and
so that's for you.
yeah, and so that way, like, like, we didn't have a full-on conversation, it was a very snippet of it.
Mhm.
It was still probably a very impactful, like, a impactful
Encounter.
thing
Yeah,
encounter.
because I mean, again, even if you would have whipped out Google Translate,
Mhm.
that might have killed the encounter
Yeah,
Yes.
because it would have been so formal. You got to wait and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Mhm.
Where this was very genuine, it was very
Mhm.
joyful in the
Yeah.
moment, and you were able to give them a tool in their own language that they could
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
access on their
Yeah.
own.
And then what I like I'm going into this trip, I was very nervous that as soon as I started talking to someone, I wouldn't know what to say, wouldn't know
You
how
showed
to
us that.
wouldn't know how to address it and everything like that. And then I kind of hit the ground running like a fish to water, you called it. And so like that was or it was more natural for me.
Mm.
But then I remember there was a few times we were in line at like a official shop and you were getting more pins
Mhm.
and I was getting a hoodie for me that she ended up stealing. And
What?
I know,
I'm
right?
shocked
I know. And then I got a shirt from my mom
that
and
your
that
mom actually got.
yeah, that my mom did actually get.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a French 3X, not an American 3X, but
yeah.
another story.
That is a different story.
It still fits. So we're good.
There you go.
But yeah, and so like we're in line and we're waiting to talk to these people and there's a line forming behind us. We also did this when we went to go see track and field at the
Mhm.
shop that they had there when we were getting our track and field shirts. Is they don't have enough time for a conversation.
Right.
They don't have they have enough time to, okay, what do you want? Okay,
Right.
here's your total.
Yep.
And so what we did is we took a lot of them were volunteers that were from France,
Right.
and so we took the pins that we had attached to French cards, and we just, hey, as a gift, thank you for what you're doing.
Yep.
And this is for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when we were at the track and field stadium, the guy was so happy that he gave me one of the mascots, not one of the plush mascots, but a mascot pin.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, 1 second, it'll take two. It's like, wait, it'll take 2 seconds. Goes and digs around in his little They had like a tote of
Yeah.
the pins that they were selling,
Right.
and I don't know. I had no clue what he was doing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. And he comes back and he goes, here, and just hands me a pin, and I'm like, oh, cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He got to
And
keep that one because it was not the
she became obsessed with the Paralympics, which are actually going on right now.
Right.
Yes.
So
I've
be
been
be praying for them.
praying for them.
Yeah.
USA actually took home their first medal ever in badminton.
Really?
Yes, in para badminton.
Wow.
It's actually a student at South Dakota State.
Cool.
Him and his mixed doubles partner took home silver in para badminton.
So here's what you need to know, folks. These are our future Paralympic team leaders because they actually have a great interest in the Paralympics, and I've never been at the Paralympics.
I just want to watch wheelchair rugby, man.
And both of them. I mean, they were. I mean, now that you've done this, you probably would be willing to do either or in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that because
Mhm.
I was having a conversation with somebody about that this week about how probably the reception may even be better
Yeah.
because so many of them have experienced some tremendous trials
Mhm.
and challenges. And plus, unfortunately, the reality is that the Paralympics just don't get the same
No, they don't.
publicity. They don't get the same press. You could probably go to all kinds of events because
Probably.
there's lots of availability of tickets.
So yeah, and so one of the things that I'm realizing, and that I realized with her, is that for those of you who don't know, a lot of you don't know me, but I've got a cousin who has cerebral palsy.
Mm.
And so he's 9 and he doesn't really talk. He has a augmented tablet that talks for him. But he hates it because he can understand us, but we just can't understand him.
Yeah.
And so there's that. It's not a language barrier, communication barrier,
Yeah.
and he can communicate and can make sounds and vowel sounds, but he just can't do. He can't. My name's Brandon, but to him I'm NN
Right.
because he can't say the B's and R's and everything like that. And so the Paralympics just mean a little bit more to me
Yeah.
because I have a cousin who's actively going through that.
Yeah.
But then I have other cousins who have had multiple surgeries because of things that they went through in their childhood.
Right.
And so that's what they mean to me.
Yeah.
And what did they like? Why
What-
what got you hooked on the Paralympics?
Look at him, Mr. Journalist, asking the questions now. It's a good question.
Really sure exactly what quit.
Mhm.
I think like not like specifically person wise. I just liked it better because I like that they're more
Accommodating?
yeah. Like
Mhm.
who would have thought? But in like playing soccer,
Right.
Yeah.
all you got to do is put a bell in a ball.
Mhm.
But like that still takes a lot of practice,
Mhm.
even probably more practice than the Olympic. Not saying the Olympians don't do anything.
Right.
like,
Right.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but like you see that, and then also the amount of teamwork it takes for
Mhm.
these other well, I don't know what do you call them
The guides, like
the
the
guys.
track
Like
and
the
field
track and
guides,
field guides?
'Cause you
they're
have
running ahead of them.
Not even that. Para-triathlon, blind para-triathletes have a
Mhm.
guide that runs the race with
With
them.
them. That's
Yes.
They
amazing.
do the cycling, the swimming, the running with them next
Just
to
so
them the
that they
entire
know they can
Yeah.
keep them on track. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
And
amazing.
so you have to be conditioned to do that. And
Yeah.
one of the Olympic para-triathlete guides used to run triathlon for Team USA and then transition to being a guide for one of
Really?
the para-triathletes. Yeah.
See, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so I think what mainly is I don't really have I mean, I know people, but in ways it's more I don't like how they get treated, like they can't do what they're
Yeah.
like. So, like your cousin who is nonverbal. Well, yeah, he's nonverbal, but he still can communicate.
Mhm.
He knows
Absolutely.
sign language. If you take the moment right there to see, he knows what he's trying to communicate.
Mhm.
You just gotta give him
Yeah, no,
the
like
attention and the time to
Yes,
get there, and
so,
he's a
like
great hugger. That's
oh,
he's
he
awesome
that's for
at.
sure.
like, we were in the middle of a church service one time. We brought the kids in for worship because I work with the kids a bunch, and, I'm there with Steven, my cousin, and, we're about to move over to the next section in our worship center because we have too many kids to fit in the area that we had reserved for them. And, one of our was our, senior adults pastor, Tim Richards, was standing there worshiping, doing his thing. Next thing I know, I see Steven do his little Steven run, which is a very fast walk. It's not a run, but he tries. And next thing I know, he's just bear hugging Tim. And I'm like, what are you? I'm like, I'm so sorry, Tim. Because I know he's just trying to worship, but I'm like, Steven, what are you doing?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, he's a hugger.
he is a great hugger. Yeah,
Just saying, like, oh man.
yeah.
When okay, so when I'm at church
Mhm,
or with helping Debbie with the tech,
mhm,
it I it does help when Debbie to have that extra person
mhm.
to be that patient person
Yep.
for cousin.
Yeah.
And so I've heard so many times from not like specifically anybody, but like I can't be with that person. How am I supposed to communicate?
Yeah.
How am I supposed
There's
to understand him? He's on top.
Well, and it's one of those things where, like she said, he can still communicate.
Yep.
Just give him choices. Like,
And
if I'm like, "You want this
yeah.
or this?"
Yes.
Yeah, what a
He
lot
will
of
pick
people
one or the
say
other.
is that it's too different for me, and
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't want to put in the effort. And again, a lot of people they just they don't understand how that is really
Yeah.
insensitive. They
Yeah.
I really don't believe that they mean that. They
Mm-mm.
just don't understand that.
Yeah.
Um, w I think a lot of the things about Concord is like our disability inclusion ministry is
Mhm.
phenomenal, and that I think has helped the church as a whole have a better attitude about it.
Mhm.
The book I'm working through right now is the Trauma Informed Children's Ministry
Mhm.
that Sherry just did
Yeah.
a workshop on. So good because it speaks to that very thing about how we're talking about physical disabilities and limitations, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of kids who go through traumatic experiences that impact the way that they act at church. And a
Mhm.
Mhm.
lot of them, instead of people trying to figure out how to meet them where they're at, they literally telling their parents and grandparents, "You're not welcome here."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is the church. It can be hard. It can be
Mhm.
challenging, but that doesn't mean we don't have to do the hard work. We do.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really loved about Concord, especially when my family first started going there, it'll be 9 years in March,
Mm,
that we've been there, is we brought Steven and we told him, "Hey, he has cerebral palsy, but he likes to be included in everything." And what they did was at the time he couldn't sit in a regular chair. And I've told you this, Jeff. I don't
mhm.
know if I've told you, Destiny. What they did was they took one of the wooden high chairs from from the younger kids' room, and cut the legs off so he could sit at the table with everyone else during snack time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's that little thing that makes a big difference because
Mhm.
it's saying to Stephen and his family,
Mhm.
"You matter, and
Yeah.
we want you to be a part of us. We don't want
Yeah.
you to feel less than or in an
Yeah.
inconvenience or anything else." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if
And
you
I mean,
tell, go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, like going back to where we do talk about physical disabilities
Mhm.
when now we need to start looking more into it, or what I would like looking more into the mental
Yeah,
Mhm.
disabilities
yeah.
that don't show as much.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
What I did like, another side note with the fan zone, is they actually any place you went to the Olympics, there was a room to the side that said safe room.
Yeah.
And it was for like, I guess, a sensory room.
Yeah,
I
like if
didn't really
you're
go in it.
It's kind of a quiet
But
So
yeah.
Yep,
it was
yep,
one of those rooms where, like, if you're being overstimulated
yep,
by
yep.
the activities and the events that are going on at the fan zone, specifically because there were days where they had team handball for the kids, they had
Right.
Mhm.
basketball or
It was
football, tennis, badminton,
yeah.
boxing, um, wheelchair basketball. Like, if you were overwhelmed by all of that, you could go there and just be by yourself.
Have a
And
quiet place,
yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
And I was really at first with the wheelchair basketball, see, I come from a generation where, um, there would be wheelchair basketball games between the teachers and
Yep.
the basketball team.
Yep.
And it was almost oh, this is silly. How do you do this? And it wasn't really meant it wasn't
Yeah.
meant to be respectful and honor. Whereas that's what it really surprised me when I first saw the wheelchair basketball option for the kids.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, they got to experience what it was like to try and play this
Yeah.
game with that change.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's actually a National Wheelchair Basketball Association here in the States.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the NBA, the WNBA, and then the NWBA. So it's National Basketball Association, Women's National Basketball Association, National Wheelchair Basketball.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, once again, we have expanded our short story.
Yeah.
Be not as short, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
very good stuff. Thank you again for joining us today, and we hope you're finding these stories engaging and enlightening, and hopefully encouraging as well as a Christ follower, both in having compassion and ministering to others in the name of Jesus, but also inspiring and seeking to have gospel conversations. We want to invite you to come and join us on Sunday, September 29th, 3 p.m. at Concord Church, or we're working on live streaming it. So that's a hope that we hope to have in place for our Ellsbury friends and others who can't make it to St. Louis. And but for those of you who can be in the room, we're going to have dessert and drinks, and we're going to share stories, pictures, video, our pens, all about our time in Paris. And then we're going to wrap up the night by launching the Italy 2026 Winter Olympics outreach plan. And in fact, we'll unveil the pin design that night for the Italy 26 pin.
Don't
And
forget your song.
and we have a Beyond the Rings AI
Generated.
song. I mean, I put in like a paragraph of words and it created the song. And it's pretty cool for
Like a vacation Bible school song.
yeah,
if
but
you
it's
know
a
what those
cool
are like.
vacation Bible school song.
Gee.
And it
For-
has our names in it.
It does have our names in
Does.
it. Well, it
Yeah.
has our names in it. Yours is
Mine's like,
Eh.
blah, 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 and yeah,
Uh-huh.
you definitely hear Brandon and Destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tony. You hear Tony.
And Tony, yeah.
You're the
yeah.
only one that's like,
Well, the first time I heard it, I'm like, it didn't get my name. And I'm like, oh, no, wait a minute, it's in there, but it's just barely in there. And that's okay.
Because your name is so small.
That's,
It
Like,
is.
yes, yeah,
well, Tony's is small too, but it has
Tony's
that
is more
hard.
than one syllable.
that's
Yeah,
true.
that
Yeah.
it has that hard T sound. It's
Yeah.
like Tony, Brandon, Destiny.
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't have really
No.
a hard.
Jeff's not important. We all know that. Yeah.
Tony, Brandon, Destiny, and that's all you hear. You hear
That's
F,
pretty much all you hear.
F.
Yeah. And that's okay. You're my ground team, and you guys deserve the recognition. I'm going to go home and cry now. Thank you very much. All right. So we hope you can join us for the celebration on the 29th or join us online for the live stream. We'll get more information out about that as soon as it's available. Thanks again for joining with us today. And until next time, see ya.